Hi everyone, welcome to the session 2 recap. So just to remind you what we had covered in the session. So what we have with us is a single Excel file. The Excel file is very straightforward. What we have with us is the transaction ID, the customer code, the date, the category, and the sales amount. There are 691 rows that we have. Now, what this means is that each customer, for example, customer 1000 has made multiple transactions. So right now there are two transactions ending with CC and ending with 01. And each transaction has multiple categories in it. And we have the date and we have the sales amount. Now imagine that we want to do some analysis on it. Of course, we can write formulas, sum if, count if, and we can also make a pivot table, which we are going to do. But first, I want to show you how we can do this with Google Colab. So the first thing is I'm switching to my free account so that there are no differences between the features that you have and the features that I have. So we already know we can go to File and we can say New Notebook. The first thing we do after we connect to Google Colab is to connect to my runtime in the top right corner. And now if you see, there is a what can I help you build dialog box that comes in. In the files icon on the left side, you can see that right now there are no files in it. I only have sample data that is given by Google Colab, but I can simply take my Excel and then load it back into this. One more time, remember, any file that I upload will only be saved temporarily, which means that if I close my workbook, close my Google Colab notebook, and then I reopen it, I will again have to re-upload the file. What is the alternative? We can also connect to, let's say, Google Drive. That means there is a permanent link and it becomes much easier. So I just press OK here. Now you notice there is an icon here called Add to Gemini. That means this file can be loaded into Google Colab using Gemini. So I click on this icon. You notice the file is added. Now, obviously, the first thing I would like to do is to just get an idea. What is the data? How many columns are there? How many unique values are there? So I'm going to start with a very simple question saying, how many columns are there? This is just like writing a prompt on Gemini or ChatGPT, which means that you simply have to ask a question in natural language. As you can see, it writes the code for you, import pandas. We are reading the file, saving it in something called DF, that is data frame. And now when I run it, it tells me there are 5 columns in the data frame. Now you might be wondering, but Havish, why did it not tell us what the names of those columns are? I mean, why would it? After all, we did not really tell it that we wanted to know the names, correct? We simply asked it how many columns are there. So I will again now say, oh, by the way, it's also giving me suggestions. So I can move the panel to the right. And if you notice, it also gives me suggestion. Do you need basic information, descriptive statistics, visualize the data? So now I will tell it what are the column names and the column types. Again, if you notice, it's very simple. It is called dataframe.info. And if I run this, it basically gives me a list of all the column names along with the data type. Okay, what next? What if I need to know a specific answer? For example, I need to know how many categories are there. Now in Excel, if I write unique, you can see that we have 9 categories. That's what we want to do. So I'm going to ask it how many unique categories. Now it says DF category. I run it and it tells me there are 9 unique categories. What if now you say, but Havish, what if I need to know the sum of sales for each of these category? That means if I say equal to sum if, let me try that again. So we say equal to sum if, and then we say the range is column D. We are looking for G2 and my sum is column E. And I drag it all the way down. It tells me the sum of sales for each of the category. Again, if I go back, I can simply ask it, show me sum of sales for each category. As you can see, it does a group by on category and it finds the sum of the sales amount. Exactly what we did in the Excel as well. We run it, and as you can see, we get the same answer. Accessories is 201, women is 174, like that. What if I now need to make a chart? So now I can say, okay, create a column chart. So remember, it keeps in mind what we did prior to it. So as you can see, it now uses matplotlib. This we will be discussing in more detail in the next session. But that's it. I just run it. And as you can see, it creates a chart for us like that. One more thing. What if you want to change the color? If I say highlight top 3 as green color and the rest as gray. That's it. It's a natural language prompt. And as you can see, it now modifies the code for me. I run it. And it is even sorts the data, the top 3 and the other 6, like that. If you say, but Havish, what if I also want to put a number? Same thing. You can ask a question, it will put the number. What I really like is the fact that it is also giving me suggestion. So it's telling me, hey, a great next step would be to perform an RFM analysis, frequency monitoring. We will calculate the recency, which is when was the last purchase date, the frequency, how many times has the customer made a purchase, and the total sales amount for each customer. And then it will find a scale of 1 to 5 and then segment the customer. It's crazy. I can just say, yes, please do RFM. I mean, it's really that simple. You ask it to do RFM analysis, and as you can see, okay, it ran into an error, but I say, please do RFM. Okay, let's try again. Okay, never mind. Let's do it one by one. So I will now say, let us find the recency, which is when was the last transaction made by each customer. And as you can see, it's very simple. It basically just tells me that, hey, we are grouping the customer code and finding the maximum date, which is nothing but the last transaction. And if I run it, it tells me that customer 1000 made it on 17th of April. 1001 made it on the 24th of April. Now, if I want to add another column, I can say add another column that shows the overall last date for the entire data. Now, this means I don't want to look at this particular customer across the entire data, which is the last date, and we can verify that here. You can see it is the 30th of April. Again, if you notice, when I run it, the maximum, it is the 30th of April. Now I can find the difference. So I can say find difference between the two. Is it smart enough to understand where I want to find a difference? Of course, why not? As you can see, it's finding the overall last date and the last transaction date. I accept and run, and it tells me the recency like this. Now I can ask it for a suggestion. I can say, I want to apply a score of 1 to 5 on these, on the recency, right? Now the question is, but on what basis? On what basis will I apply a score of 1 to 5? I would assume that somebody who made a purchase more recently would be considered a good customer. Somebody who hasn't made a purchase for a long time will be a bad customer. Again, if you notice, it is breaking it into quintile. That means breaking the data into 5 equal parts. Now remember, wherever you don't know that Havish, how is this working? At that point, you can always open Google Gemini, as you can see, paste it, and as you can see, I can say explain. It now tells me that, hey, we are doing a quantile based. Okay, I've never seen the word discretization earlier, but fair enough. We're just dividing it. And that's it. It just says that the first 20% customer, that means the lowest recency value. That means people who purchased within that group, let's say 0 to some number of days, will come in the label 5. And similarly, label 1 would be somebody who have not purchased for a long time. And I think that I really like the approach. I accept and run. And now you notice it assigns a score like this as well. So that's what I'm going to do. I will not do more, but I hope you all have a feel for it. Also would like to share that you can always go and ask for suggestion. So what I would have done is I would just copy like a few rows, paste it in Gemini, and then ask it, I am learning Google Colab. Give me 100 one-line ideas on how we can analyze this data. That means it knows that there are 5 columns, and I'm simply asking it, give me 100 one-line ideas on how we can analyze the data. And as you can see, this is crazy, right? Like, imagine I don't even now have to think of the questions to ask. I can actually copy one of these, right? And then paste it back into Google Colab. Now, you might say, but Havish, if everything is happening with AI between Gemini and Colab, then why we even require it? Because you know your data the best. You know your business better than anyone else. I'm just making you aware of the capability. Like if I say forecast total sales for the next week using a simple time series model, you might say, hey, isn't that like really, really complex? Like, how will I even understand how the forecast is working? But here's the best part. The code comes with Google Colab, right? If you notice when I run it, the code comes with Google Colab and the explanation comes with Gemini. Now remember, this is a task, which means that there'll be a series of tasks, steps that happen. So first it aggregates the data. So it looks at the total sales for each of the days. Next, it will do a time series model selection. So it will apply a simple time series model. Also, do you see how it's also giving you description for each step, which I absolutely love. So it's also explaining to you what is happening. And at any point you feel, but what is SSC, AIC, BIC, AICC? Remember, I can always take a screenshot, go back to Gemini, and I can ask it to explain it to me. Is this a quick process? Not really. It is a time consuming process, but hey, you know what? You're actually learning programming, Python, forecasting, eventually machine learning. So it's fantastic that now just by asking natural language prompts, you're able to do all of this. Again, now it trains the model, and you notice it is now giving you historical sales and your forecasted sales like this. Let it complete. This, by the way, is the explanation of how the model is working. One point I would like to mention, you don't have to like read all of it. You can just say, hey, this is too complex. I am a buyer at Landmark Group. And I will say, how is this relevant to me in 5 bullet points? You see what I'm doing, right? Like you don't have to make it super complex. Just say that I'm a buyer. How is it relevant to me? Right? That would be the best way of going about it. By the way, it also gives you your key findings here and the insights, right? And like I said, if you say, I'm not concerned about the code, Havish, and why should you be? The code is a means to an end. Your end goal is not to write a code. You're not a data scientist. You're a business user. So this is fantastic. It says it's a simple attempt to predict total sale because I want to estimate future demand. It gives more weight to long-term sales history and less weight to the most recent sales week. The critical flaw is that it ignores seasonality, right? And obviously, because our data is a very short period, it can be more accurate, right? And the takeaway is that I use it as a rough baseline. That means I will not rely on it to decide something which is very critical, like that. So, yeah, I hope this was helpful, everyone. I would request you to go through the video. Don't worry about making mistakes. Just go crazy. Just try like 100 different things. And believe me, that's the best way of learning. And then over a period of time, you will start getting more comfortable. So there we go, everyone. That's the recap of our second session. I hope you liked it and you understood it. And I look forward to see you for the next one.